There is a law in life, as certain as the law of gravity. It governs success, power, wealth, peace of mind, and the mastery of one's destiny. That law is this: the man or woman who governs their inner world, who stands as master over thought and emotion, commands the external world. The individual who cannot govern himself will forever remain a servant to circumstance, to passion, and to the opinions of others. If you would rise to the top 1% of achievers, you must begin here, with your own mind, your own discipline, your own ability to detach from the noise of emotion and see clearly into the heart of truth. The average man is ruled by reaction. He becomes a puppet of his moods, swayed by the comments of strangers, unhinged by criticism, inflated by praise, and crippled by fear. He rises when fortune smiles upon him and falls into despair when fortune withdraws her hand. His life is a pendulum, swinging between extremes, never steady, never still, never certain. But the great man, the man of power, the one whose name endures in history or whose fortune towers over his generation, he is unmoved. He acts not from impulse, but from command. He thinks first, and only then allows emotion to follow in obedience to thought. He is calm when others rage, patient when others panic, decisive when others hesitate, and because he governs himself, others bend to his will. This is not theory. It is the very pattern of power. Let me tell you a truth you must engrave upon your mind. If you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. There is no middle ground. Nature abhors weakness. Life punishes indecision. Society tramples the man who wavers, while it crowns the one who moves forward with unshakable certainty. To master your emotions, therefore, is not a luxury. It is the very price of entry to greatness. Consider the principle of definiteness of purpose. Every man drifts until he seizes upon a single commanding aim. The drifter has no control over his emotions, for he has no direction strong enough to subordinate them. His anger turns him aside. His fear halts his progress. His lust distracts him. His envy corrodes him. He is a leaf driven by the wind, with no root and no destiny. But the man of definite purpose subordinates every emotion to his goal. If fear arises, he channels it into preparation. If anger stirs, he forges it into energy for constructive action. If desire awakens, he trains it upon his vision, refusing to squander it on frivolities. Purpose is the general of the mind, emotion is the soldier. When the soldier commands the general, the army collapses. When the general commands the soldier, victory is inevitable. The top 1% think differently because they live from principle, not from impulse. They have trained themselves to see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. They have stripped away the fog of wishful thinking and the intoxication of passion. They recognize that to succeed, one must deal in realities. Napoleon himself once said, "Circumstances? I make circumstances." And how could he do this? By refusing to allow his mind to be enslaved by temporary feelings. He treated emotion as a servant and thought as a master. Thus, he bent the world to his vision. The majority confuse detachment with coldness. They think that to detach emotionally is to become lifeless, mechanical, without feeling. This is ignorance. Detachment does not destroy emotion, it disciplines it. The detached man feels as deeply as any other, but he chooses when to feel, how to feel, and to what degree. He is not dragged helplessly by waves of emotion. He is the captain who sails upon them. Anger, when mastered, becomes righteous energy to defend one's honor or purpose. Love, when disciplined, becomes devotion that endures beyond infatuation. Fear, when controlled, sharpens caution without paralyzing action. Detachment is not the death of the heart. It is the throne of the heart. If you wish to rise into that rare order of men who command industries, shape nations, or simply govern their own households with wisdom, begin here. Refuse to react. Observe first. Ask yourself, is this emotion worthy of my purpose? Does it serve me or enslave me? Only then respond with deliberate choice. This simple principle, practiced with rigor, will elevate you above 99% of humanity. For the mass of men live in reaction. The few live in command. Now understand this. Discipline of emotion is inseparable from discipline of thought. Thought is the root. Emotion is the branch. The mind thinks a thought of fear, and emotion springs up as anxiety. The mind thinks a thought of injustice, and emotion arises as anger. The mind imagines loss, and sorrow flows forth. If you would govern emotion, you must master the origin, your thought patterns. This is why I say, guard your mind as a king guards his throne. What enters it shapes your destiny. The words you repeat to yourself, the images you allow, the associations you maintain, these are the seeds from which your emotions and, eventually, your actions grow. Therefore, take possession of your mind, and you will take possession of your future. The ancients spoke of the Stoic sage who remained unshaken by fortune or misfortune. When storms raged, he stood calm. When applause thundered, he stood calm. When insult fell, he stood calm. Why? Because he had withdrawn his power from externals and placed it within. The modern achiever must do the same. Do not hand over your peace to the critic, your joy to the crowd, or your determination to the failures of yesterday. Keep them within you, as treasures locked in a vault no man can touch. Then you shall be independent not only of circumstance, but of the slavery of reaction. Mark this well. Emotional detachment is not weakness, it is power concentrated. The lion does not roar at every bird that chirps. He reserves his energy for the prey worthy of his hunt. Likewise, the man of destiny does not react to every slight, every rumor, every fleeting discomfort. He directs his force only toward what serves his vision. This is why small men exhaust themselves in trivial battles, while great men conserve their strength for decisive victories. The principle of autosuggestion, as I have taught before, is the means by which one trains the subconscious mind to obey the conscious purpose. When allied with emotional mastery, it becomes unstoppable. For if you suggest to yourself, with calmness and conviction, that you are the master of your fate, the commander of your emotions, the sovereign of your inner world, then over time your subconscious will absorb this command. It will cease to rebel with wild feelings. It will align itself with your conscious will. Thus, through repetition, discipline, and unwavering faith, you reprogram the very roots of your being. You become not a creature of habit, but the architect of habit, not a victim of emotion, but the ruler of emotion. Think on this law. Reaction is slavery, response is freedom. When you react, you are chained to the external stimulus. Another man insults you, and you grow angry. The world controls you. Fortune withdraws, and you despair. Chance controls you. But when you respond, you insert thought between stimulus and action. You ask, does this serve my purpose? Does this deserve my energy? Then you act not as a slave, but as a master. That moment of pause, that instant of detachment, is the mark of greatness, for it is in that space that destiny is forged. Look upon history. Men who built empires, who amassed fortunes, who changed civilizations, none were governed by the moods of the hour. Washington endured years of despair without surrender. Lincoln bore ridicule, loss, and betrayal, yet he remained steadfast. Rockefeller faced the storms of finance and never wavered. These men were not superhuman. They were men who refused to be mastered by fleeting emotions. They fixed their eyes upon a definite purpose and subordinated everything within them to that purpose. That is why they rose above the multitude. And here I declare a truth. Success is never outside first. It is inside first. The world is but a mirror reflecting the state of your inner kingdom. If chaos reigns in your mind, chaos will manifest in your affairs. If calmness reigns within, order will appear without. If you burn with uncontrolled passion, you will scatter your energies and reap frustration. If you cultivate serene discipline, you will concentrate your energies and reap achievement. The outer is a shadow of the inner. Therefore, take control of the inner, and the outer must obey. Discipline, then, is not merely the ability to rise early, to work long hours, or to resist temptation. Discipline at its root is the ability to command yourself, to say, to fear. You may whisper, but you may not dictate. To say, to desire, you may exist, but you shall serve, not rule. To say, to anger, you may burn, but only in the furnace of purpose. This is discipline, the throne of self-mastery, and upon this throne, all true power is seated. You must learn the law of mental neutrality. Just as the balance scale weighs without prejudice, so must your mind evaluate without passion. When opportunity presents itself, examine it with clarity, not intoxication. When danger arises, analyze it with reason, not panic. Neutrality does not mean passivity, it means clarity. It is the still water that reflects the image truly. Turbulent water distorts, but calm water reveals. The mind that is neutral in analysis sees reality as it is, and therefore makes decisions that bend reality to its will. This neutrality is the secret weapon of the top 1%. Pause and ask yourself, how many of my past errors were born not of ignorance but of emotional haste? How many opportunities did I ruin by reacting too quickly, by speaking too soon, by acting without thought? And how many of my triumphs were won when I paused, detached, and chose with deliberation? In that contrast, you will see the proof of all I am saying. The undisciplined mind is a battlefield littered with self-inflicted wounds. The disciplined mind is a fortress from which the conqueror emerges. Therefore, I charge you, begin today the work of emotional discipline. Do not wait for crisis to test your strength. Train daily in small things. When irritation arises, pause. When fear knocks, breathe. When desire whispers, question. These small exercises accumulate into unbreakable strength. The body is trained by repetitions, so too the mind. Each time you master a small emotion, you prepare to master great ones. And when the great storms of life descend, you will not be shaken. You will stand as a mountain unmoved. The mastery of self is the rarest of arts, yet it is the foundation of all others. Men seek to master wealth, yet lose it because they cannot master greed. Men seek to master influence, yet squander it because they cannot master pride. Men seek to master love, yet ruin it because they cannot master jealousy. All failure can be traced to the failure of self-mastery. All enduring success can be traced to its presence. To take control of your inner world is to seize the keys of destiny. To neglect it is to forfeit your birthright to mediocrity and slavery. The great illusion of life is that external change precedes internal change. Men believe that if circumstances improve, their emotions will improve. They say, when I have wealth, I will be calm. When I gain respect, I will be confident. When I am loved, I will be secure. But this is to build castles in the air. The truth is the reverse. The man who is calm in poverty, calm in obscurity, calm in solitude, he attracts wealth, respect, and love, for he radiates the inner strength that commands them. Fortune bows to character, not the reverse. Those who wait for outer order to bring inner order shall wait until death. Those who impose inner order upon themselves shall see the outer world arrange itself in obedience. Let us consider accurate thinking, one of the rarest faculties in the world, and yet the cornerstone of mental discipline. Accurate thinking demands that we separate fact from opinion, truth from rumor, essential from trivial. The masses believe whatever stirs their emotions. A newspaper headline, a neighbor's gossip, a stranger's sneer, these set their moods, alter their decisions, and direct their lives. They never pause to ask, is this true? Is it important? Does it serve my purpose? The thinker, however, holds his mind like a filter. He refuses to allow untested impressions to become beliefs or unchecked emotions to become actions. He examines, he questions, he weighs, and only then does he decide. This power of thought, exercised daily, builds the fortress of mental detachment. For once you see things as they are, illusions lose their power to disturb you. Suppose a man insults you. The average mind reacts. Anger flares, words are spoken, energy is wasted. But the accurate thinker asks, what is the fact here? A man spoke words. Do those words alter my purpose? Do they diminish my ability? Do they command my destiny? No, they are mere vibrations in the air, no more substantial than the wind. Shall I then abandon my calm for them? Certainly not. By this process, thought restrains emotion, and the man remains master, or suppose fortune withdraws and money is lost. The average mind panics, imagining doom, but the accurate thinker separates fact from fear. The fact, I have lost a sum. The false imagination, I am ruined forever. Which shall I believe? The fact and nothing more. From the fact, I can reason. Wealth lost can be regained by thought, discipline, and initiative. Thus, instead of despair, I remain calm and plan my return. This is how accurate thinking transforms loss into opportunity and defeat into preparation for victory. Do not underestimate the power of calmness. Calmness is not merely the absence of emotion, it is a positive force, a reservoir of energy conserved and ready for decisive use. The man who remains calm when others panic becomes the natural leader, for his composure inspires trust. In battle, the calm general sees the field clearly, while the panicked general loses vision. In business, the calm strategist seizes opportunity, while the anxious competitor wastes resources. In life, the calm soul endures storms with dignity, while the restless scatter themselves into ruin. Calmness is the invisible crown of the great. It is not given, it is forged by repeated practice of emotional detachment. The principle of personal initiative also belongs here. Discipline is not mere restraint, it is direction. It is not enough to suppress emotion, you must channel it. The energy of passion, when mastered, is the fire of achievement. Initiative is the art of transmuting inner force into outer action. The masses wait for instruction, for conditions, for approval. The disciplined man acts from within. He does not ask, "Will others support me?" He asks, "Is this aligned with my purpose?" If yes, he acts regardless of applause or criticism. Initiative is the outward proof of inner mastery. For only he who is detached from fear of failure, from lust for approval, from anxiety of rejection, can act boldly when others hesitate. You will discover that the 1% live by the law of cause and effect with relentless clarity. They do not ascribe their emotions to fate, their failures to chance, or their successes to luck. They know that every thought sown yields an emotion, every emotion yields an action, every action yields a result, and every result builds destiny. Therefore, they guard the root thought, and in so doing, they control the fruit destiny. When fear arises, they trace it back to the thought of loss and replace it with the thought of preparation. When anger arises, they trace it back to the thought of insult and replace it with the thought of indifference. When despair arises, they trace it back to the thought of finality and replace it with the thought of perseverance. Thus, they alter the chain of cause and effect at the origin, and the outcome bends to their will. Understand, life is a mirror, and the mind is the sculptor. If you see chaos, you must examine your thought. If you see conflict, you must examine your reaction. If you see stagnation, you must examine your discipline. The masses complain of the world without, the wise reform the world within, and as they reform it, the external world follows as a shadow follows the body. This law is eternal and unbreakable. Those who resist it perish in frustration. Those who align with it ascend into mastery. Let us not forget the principle of time. Emotional reactivity wastes it, discipline preserves it. How many hours are lost each week in arguments, in worries, in regrets, in indulgences born of uncontrolled emotion? The man who rages at trifles, who sulks at criticism, who trembles at shadows, squanders more time than any thief could steal. But the man of detachment wastes none. He invests his hours only where they compound toward his purpose. This is why the 1% appear to achieve so much more with the same 24 hours. It is not that they are given more time, but that they refuse to waste it on the chaos of emotional indulgence. They live each hour as trustees of destiny, not as slaves of impulse. There is also the principle of response versus reaction, which I charge you never to forget. Reaction is instinct, the animal within you. Response is choice, the God within you. The animal snarls, flees, lusts, sulks. The God observes, judges, directs, and acts with sovereignty. Every moment of life offers you this fork. Will I react like the beast or respond like the master? The 1% have trained themselves so thoroughly that response becomes habit. They have automated detachment. They no longer struggle to hold back rage or fear. Their very nature has been recast by discipline into calmness and command. You may achieve the same if you will practice until response replaces reaction as your natural mode of being. But beware, mastery demands sacrifice. You cannot indulge every emotion and expect discipline. You cannot feed every desire and expect freedom. You cannot yield to every fear and expect courage. The masses cling to comfort, to indulgence, to excuses, and so they remain masses. The master detaches not only from emotion, but from the need to indulge it. He renounces what enslaves him in order to claim what empowers him. This is why the way to greatness is narrow and few walk upon it, for it requires the courage to deny oneself the cheap satisfaction of reaction in order to claim the eternal reward of mastery. And here lies a paradox. The man who detaches from his emotions does not become less human but more, for he is no longer a puppet of animal impulses, but a conscious creator of his own destiny. He does not suppress his humanity. He transcends it. He chooses when to feel, and how to act. Thus his joy is deeper, his love purer, his peace unshakable. He lives not in fragments of passion, but in the unity of purpose. This is true humanity, to rise above instinct into mastery, to govern oneself as a king governs a kingdom. Therefore, engrave this upon your mind. Detachment is not escape from life. It is sovereignty over life. He who detaches does not flee the battlefield. He commands it. He does not extinguish passion. He directs it. He does not kill desire. He elevates it. He does not ignore fear. He conquers it. Detachment is not negation. It is transformation. And in this transformation lies the secret of the top 1%. The greatest discovery a man can make is that his mind is the workshop of his destiny. Within it are tools more powerful than armies, treasures more valuable than gold, and forces that can either enslave him or exalt him. Yet most men leave this workshop in chaos. Their tools are scattered, their treasures neglected, their forces wasted. They permit stray thoughts to wander in, passions to overturn the order, and doubts to sabotage the work. Then they wonder why their lives are in ruins. But the rare man, the disciplined man, enters his workshop each morning with order, with purpose, with command. He arranges his thoughts as a general arranges his army. He expels intruders of fear and envy. He sharpens the tools of will and concentration. He sets to work with calmness, and he does not stop until his vision has been carved into reality. This man, and only this man, is master of his fate. The principle of autosuggestion is the great lever by which the conscious mind directs the subconscious. Most men misuse it unconsciously, repeating words of defeat and images of fear until their subconscious becomes a factory of failure. They say, "I cannot," and soon their subconscious ensures they cannot. They say, "I fear," and soon their subconscious multiplies fears until they drown in them. But the master uses autosuggestion with deliberate intent. Each morning he impresses upon his mind, "I am calm, I am disciplined, I am master of my thoughts. Nothing external can command me, for I command myself." Repeated with conviction, these words take root. The subconscious accepts them as law. The emotions, once rebellious slaves, now bow in obedience, and the man becomes what he has declared. As Hill taught, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief is not mere hope. It is hammered into the subconscious through autosuggestion until it becomes reality. Let us speak of desire, the starting point of all achievement. Desire is fire, and without fire, no engine moves. But fire uncontrolled burns the house to ashes. Fire discipline powers the locomotive across mountains. So, with desire, uncontrolled, it drives men into ruin, gamblers at tables, tyrants on thrones, addicts in shadows. But disciplined, it drives men into greatness, leaders, creators, conquerors of obstacles. The key is not to extinguish desire, but to transmute it. The man who detaches emotionally does not kill his desires. He commands them to serve his purpose. He takes the same fire that burns others and channels it into steady fuel. Thus, he endures where others collapse, for his energy is not scattered but directed. It is written that he who conquers others is strong, but he who conquers himself is mighty. Consider what this means. The tyrant may subdue nations, but if he is enslaved by pride, fear, or rage, he is weaker than the humblest man who governs himself. The conqueror of self cannot be conquered by fortune, by insult, by circumstance, by fate. He is invincible because his strength does not depend on externals. It is rooted within, beyond the reach of men or gods. Such a man may be stripped of wealth, yet he remains rich in command of himself. He may be cast into prison, yet he remains free in his sovereignty of thought. He may be opposed by the world, yet he stands undefeated, for he carries within him the throne of mastery. This is the essence of emotional detachment, invulnerability born of inner command. Let us descend deeper into the law of cause and effect, for it is here that the top 1% diverge most sharply from the masses. The masses live in effects. They complain of results without tracing them back to causes. They lament their failures as though they were accidents, their sorrows as though they were fate, their weaknesses as though they were curses. But the 1% live in causes. They know that every emotion is born of a thought. Every thought is born of a choice. Every choice is born of a principle. Therefore, they work at the root. They train thought, and so they command emotion. They discipline emotion, and so they direct action. They refine action, and so they ensure result. They live not as victims of chance, but as architects of destiny. This is why their success seems supernatural to the masses. It is not luck, but law. Accurate thinking, self-discipline, definiteness of purpose, autosuggestion, mastery over emotion, these are not separate principles, but interwoven threads of one fabric. Detach from emotion, and you gain accurate thinking. Establish definite purpose, and you discipline emotion. Apply autosuggestion, and you reinforce purpose. Exercise discipline, and you master self. Together, these form the garment of mastery, worn only by those who ascend above reaction into command. To wear it is to be set apart, as the 1% are set apart from the multitude. There is a principle I call the economy of energy. Every reaction wastes energy. Every discipline conserves it. Anger wasted on trifles drains strength needed for great tasks. Fear wasted on shadows steals courage needed for real battles. Desire squandered on indulgences robs energy needed for achievement. The masses dissipate themselves in 1,000 unworthy expenditures, and so they remain weak. The master hoards his energy, spends it only on essentials, and thus appears to have superhuman endurance. But it is not superhuman, it is merely undivided. This is why the calm man achieves more in 1 year than the restless man in 10. He wastes nothing, he channels everything. He conserves like a banker, invests like a strategist, and reaps like a king. You must learn to treat your emotions as subjects in a kingdom. Do not banish them, for they have power. Do not indulge them, for they will overthrow you. Instead, govern them with wisdom. Hear their petitions, but act only upon those that serve the realm of your purpose. Anger comes, ask, does this strengthen my kingdom? If not, dismiss it. Fear comes, ask, does this preserve my kingdom? If yes, use it as caution. If not, silence it. Desire comes, ask, does this enrich my kingdom? If yes, harness it. If not, restrain it. By such governance, you build an empire within, and the outer empire must follow, for no kingdom stands secure unless it is first secured within its walls. Many fear detachment because they mistake it for isolation. They think the detached man cannot love, cannot laugh, cannot weep. This is false. The detached man loves more deeply, because his love is not tainted by neediness or fear. He laughs more purely, because his joy is not enslaved to conditions. He weeps more honestly, because his sorrow is not exaggerated by self-pity. He feels without being consumed. He acts without being enslaved. He lives without being lost. Detachment does not shrink life. It magnifies it. It frees you to experience emotion as a choice, not a compulsion. This is true freedom. The freedom the 1% guard as their crown jewel. Mark this. The mind that is disciplined to detach is also disciplined to focus. Scattered emotions scatter thought. Calm emotions concentrate thought. And concentrated thought is the laser that cuts through obstacles. The masses think vaguely, half in fear, half in hope, half in doubt. Their energy is dissipated in contradiction. The master thinks clearly, wholly, decisively. His energy converges like a burning glass on one point until it ignites into achievement. This is why definiteness of purpose is inseparable from detachment. Without detachment, purpose is diluted by conflicting emotions. With detachment, purpose becomes absolute, and absolute purpose commands absolute results. The greatest victories are not those won in public, but those won in silence within the mind. To hold back the angry word when provoked, to restrain the fearful retreat when challenged, to deny the foolish indulgence when tempted, these are victories greater than any applause can crown. They are invisible, but their effects are monumental. Each silent victory strengthens the citadel of self-mastery. Each defeat weakens it. Day by day, choice by choice, you are either building an empire within or surrendering it to chaos. And the sum of these hidden battles determines whether you will rise to the top 1% or remain lost in the multitude. Therefore, I say to you, cultivate the art of pausing. Between stimulus and response lies a gap, a sacred interval in which you may choose. The undisciplined man ignores it and reacts. The disciplined man seizes it and responds. In that pause, the future is decided. In that pause, destinies diverge. In that pause, the top 1% separate themselves from the 99. Practice it until it becomes natural, until every impulse meets the governor of thought before it becomes action. Then you will walk through life as a sovereign among subjects, calm in crisis, deliberate in decision, untouchable by the storms that toss weaker men. There is a throne at the center of every man's mind. Either he occupies it or something else does. For most, that throne is occupied by fear, fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of loss, fear of death. For others, it is occupied by desire, desire for pleasure, for applause, for indulgence. For some, it is anger, jealousy, or the craving for power over others. But for the rare man, the master, the one who ascends into the highest 1%, the throne is occupied by reason, by purpose, by calm command. He sits upon it with dignity, and every emotion approaches him like a petitioner. Some he accepts, others he dismisses. Nothing storms the throne, nothing overthrows his reign. This is what it means to rule oneself, and he who rules himself rules more surely than any emperor who ever conquered nations. You must understand the difference between control and command. Control is suppression, the weak man gritting his teeth, restraining his fury, hiding his fear. This is fragile, and sooner or later the dam bursts. Command is higher. It is sovereignty, the emotions bowing of their own accord to a greater principle. The man of command does not need to suppress, because his thought has already transmuted emotion into service. Fear becomes vigilance. Anger becomes energy. Desire becomes vision. He does not fight his emotions. He directs them. This is why emotional detachment is not repression, but transformation. Repression breeds weakness. Transformation breeds power. Consider the battlefield of business, politics, or art. The man who reacts emotionally is easily manipulated. Praise him, and he grows reckless. Criticize him, and he collapses. Offer him comfort, and he yields his independence. Threaten him with discomfort, and he abandons his principles. Such a man is a pawn, not a player. But the man who is detached cannot be moved so easily. He weighs every influence against his purpose. Praise does not intoxicate him, for he knows his worth is not in the mouth of others. Criticism does not wound him, for he knows his purpose is not altered by opinion. Comfort does not seduce him, for he knows growth comes only through discipline. Threats do not sway him, for he has already counted the cost of his purpose. This man cannot be bought, cannot be frightened, cannot be diverted. He is free, and therefore he is powerful. There is a law of nature you must engrave upon your mind. Emotion is energy. Energy undirected is chaos. Energy directed is achievement. Every outburst of anger, every hour of worry, every indulgence of desire is energy wasted, strength poured upon the ground. But every moment of calm, every pause of thought, every disciplined response is energy conserved, strength stored for decisive action. The masses live in exhaustion because they squander their energy on reaction. The masters live in vitality because they channel their energy with discipline. It is not that they have more life force, but that they refuse to waste it. The river that overflows floods the land and achieves nothing. The river that is channeled turns the wheel and powers the mill. So it is with human energy. Discipline is the channel. Purpose is the wheel. Achievement is the product. Now reflect upon this. Every great leader, every builder of wealth, every shaper of destiny was at some point confronted with storms meant to unseat him, yet he remained unmoved. Why? Because he had mastered the principle of calmness under fire. Washington, outnumbered and harassed, endured the long winter without surrender. Lincoln, slandered and betrayed, governed with patience until victory was won. Edison, mocked by failures, persevered through 10,000 attempts without despair. Each of these men practiced detachment from the emotions that ruin the masses. They refused to allow fear, anger, or weariness to dictate their course, and because of this, history bowed to them. The world belongs not to the restless, but to the steadfast. Do not imagine that this discipline comes easily. It must be forged. Just as the body gains strength through resistance, so the mind gains mastery through trial. Each insult resisted without anger, each fear confronted without surrender, each desire denied without indulgence is a repetition that builds the muscle of mastery. Over time, calmness becomes natural, detachment instinctive, discipline effortless. What begins as struggle becomes second nature. The mind, once a battlefield, becomes a fortress. And in that fortress, the master dwells secure. But beware of self-deception. Many imagine themselves detached because they suppress their emotions in public while indulging them in secret. This is not mastery, it is hypocrisy. True detachment means your inner state is governed, not merely your outer display. It means that in the silence of your thoughts, you are calm, not boiling within while smiling without. It means that in solitude as well as in company, you remain sovereign. The test of mastery is not how you appear, but how you truly are. Ask yourself, when alone, am I master of my thoughts or do they master me? When unobserved, do I govern my emotions or do they govern me? Your honest answer reveals your rank in the hierarchy of mastery. Let us examine the role of faith. Not faith in the sense of blind hope, but faith as disciplined confidence in law. The masses waver because they doubt the connection between thought and result. They think their efforts are accidents, their futures uncertain, their destinies at the mercy of chance, but the masters live by faith in principle that what a man sows, he must reap. That disciplined thought produces disciplined results. That purpose governs destiny. This faith gives them calmness in crisis, for they know outcomes are rooted in causes, and they have cultivated the causes within. The farmer does not panic when the field is bare. He has faith that the seeds will grow. The master does not despair when results are unseen. He has faith that disciplined thoughts will manifest. Faith, therefore, is not passivity. It is the courage to persist in discipline until law bears fruit. The masses believe wealth, power, or happiness depend on fortune. The masters know they depend on mastery of mind. For what is wealth without discipline but fuel for indulgence? What is power without detachment but a weapon for self-destruction? What is happiness without inner sovereignty but a fleeting shadow? It is not fortune that creates mastery. It is mastery that creates fortune. And without mastery, fortune ruins more men than it elevates. This is why you see men win lotteries and lose everything. Men inherit empires and destroy them. Men gain fame and perish in vice. Wealth without discipline is curse. Power without detachment is poison. But when the mind is mastered, wealth and power become tools of greatness. Therefore, I tell you, if you seek to join the 1%, do not chase externals first. Begin with the inner throne. Demand of yourself calmness in adversity, discipline in desire, detachment in reaction. Train daily as a warrior trains, for life is a battlefield and the enemy is within. Each day, seize the throne anew, for if you vacate it, fear or desire will seize it in your absence. The throne must not be left empty. It must be occupied continuously by thought, by purpose, by command. And here lies the final truth of this segment. Greatness is not granted to the lucky, nor stolen by the ruthless. It is claimed by the disciplined. It is the natural reward of he who governs himself. The masses are many, but the masters are few, because few have the courage to face themselves and conquer. Yet if you would rise above the 99, this is the path: to withdraw your allegiance from emotion, to swear loyalty to purpose, and to crown thought as sovereign. Then you shall walk not as a servant of impulse, but as a king of destiny. There is a throne at the center of every life. Either you sit upon it or fear, anger, and desire do. Most men surrender this throne to their moods, reacting to every insult, every doubt, every shift of fortune. But the rare few, the top 1%, claim it and never relinquish it. They govern themselves, and because of this, they command the world. To master yourself is to master destiny. If your thoughts wander, your emotions will enslave you. If your emotions enslave you, your actions will betray you. But when thought is sovereign, emotion becomes servant, and action becomes powerful. This is the unchanging law of cause and effect. Govern the root, and you govern the fruit. Detachment does not mean lifelessness, it means clarity. The detached man does not feel less. He feels more deeply because he chooses when to feel. Anger becomes energy for justice. Fear becomes vigilance for preparation. Desire becomes fuel for vision. Detachment does not kill emotion, it crowns it. The masses react, the masters respond. Reaction is slavery, response is freedom. Reaction wastes energy on trifles. Response conserves energy for destiny. This is why small men are exhausted by gossip and conflict, while great men remain calm, directing all force toward their definite purpose. Accurate thinking is inseparable from detachment. The disciplined mind separates fact from rumor, truth from opinion, essential from trivial. Words that would insult another man are to him mere vibrations in the air. Loss that would paralyze another man is to him a fact to be solved. He refuses to be disturbed by illusions. He acts only on realities. Every emotion is energy. Uncontrolled, it floods and destroys. Controlled, it powers the engine of achievement. The masters discipline imagination itself, refusing to picture failure or doom. They impress upon their minds only images of calmness, discipline, and victory, and what the mind consistently conceives, it eventually achieves. The path of mastery is not dramatic in its daily form. It is forged in silence, in choices no one sees, holding the tongue when provoked, continuing when weary, persisting when others quit. Each unseen victory builds a fortress within, until calmness becomes second nature and discipline becomes identity. Understand this. Life will test you at your weakest point. If anger rules you, insults will multiply. If fear rules you, uncertainty will surround you. If desire rules you, temptation will hunt you. These are not curses, they are lessons. Conquer them, and you ascend. Surrender to them, and you remain among the masses. The 1% are not lucky, they live by law. They are calm when others panic, clear when others doubt, steadfast when others surrender. They sit upon the throne of the mind and rule as sovereigns. And because they command themselves, power, wealth, and influence gravitate to them. Therefore, I say to you, seize the throne of your mind. Place thought as sovereign, purpose as law, discipline as guard. Detach from reaction, respond with choice, persist with calmness. Then you will join the rare few who rise above the noise of the world. And when others look upon you unmoved, unshaken, they will whisper, he thinks differently, she thinks differently, and they will be right.